Good morning. Welcome to Stories Parkinson Story, Episode 7. I guess I'm going to have a little voice problem here this morning. I'm going to call this housekeeping. A couple things I want to do. First, I want to reiterate that this is a personal video blog of my experience, my journey with Parkinson's. I have no intent to try and monetize this channel like a lot of channels on YouTube are, where people are there to make money. I don't expect to get any advertisers or anything like that. If you happen to stumble on it and you want to follow it, that's fine. My real purpose was for me to be able to look back and see how I'm doing and how things have changed over time. That's really what I'm about in this whole video. Calling it housekeeping because I want to talk some about my symptoms that I had before my diagnosis that I didn't realize were related to Parkinson's. I thought they may have just been part of aging or medication side effects or from my peripheral neuropathy. I actually thought a lot of it was being caused by medication I was taking because of peripheral neuropathy. I really tried a couple of times to wean myself off of it to see if it would get better, and I never got there. Let me get a drink of water. Today is it's early Sunday morning, February the 19th, 2023. So we're going to talk about the last week and also the symptom business. So my Saturdays and Sundays tend to be my days of rest because I spend the other 5 days in physical activity as part of the strategy and the actual ability to slow down the effect of Parkinson's. So when I'm going to 413 Fitness on Mondays, that was primarily what I did this last Monday, the 13th. Then on, that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday and Thursday, I have a session with my personal trainer for weightlifting. And he does a pretty good job wearing me out over a half hour. So this last Tuesday was Valentine's Day also. I had my personal trainer appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning. And just to give you some idea, I've been going with him for over a year and a half before I knew I had Parkinson's. I started with him because I knew I needed to do something to improve my overall physical fitness, my strength and whatever. Some of that knowledge or motivation was because of symptoms from Parkinson's that I didn't realize were Parkinson's. So at any rate, I went to my personal trainer, achieved a new record on my leg press, 235 pounds, which for me is quite an accomplishment considering when I started I was only able to leg press 85 pounds. Had an appointment that day to take the car in for an oil change, tire rotation, all that stuff. The dealership it's a relatively new car, so the dealership service is still included, and but the dealership's about almost an hour away. Really having throat business this morning. That's a Parkinson's thing with your saliva gets thick and so it makes it difficult. So we took the car in for an oil change, ended up also changing the cabin air filter and doing the alignment. The car has almost 20,000 miles on it. from there, we went to one of our favorite Mexican Tex-Mex restaurants and shared fajitas for Valentine's. Whoopee, you know, we're not real wild on birthdays, anniversary celebrations, that sort of thing all the time. We don't kind of go over the top. So we had a nice fajita dinner, came home. Wednesday, Wednesday, I'm looking at notes here. So Wednesday's the 15th. I had my 413 fitness at 9:15 in the morning for an hour. After that, got back. My wife had a get together with some of the neighborhood ladies. They called it Palentine's Day. They went to a restaurant downtown, a place called Sweet Lemon, had afternoon tea and had all kinds of food and whatever. It's a good time for her to get out of the house and spend some time with her friends. And they're mostly the ladies who play games together on nights and weekends, or Fridays. So that took care of the Wednesday business. Thursday again was PT, this time at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. So I had my 30 minutes with Mike. We really did a lot in 30 minutes. It's kind of almost like intense circuit training, moving from one machine to another. He pretty well wore me out on Thursday. I mean, I was worn out. I was fatigued, to say the least. Friday, 413 Fitness. So I did that. Like last Friday, I only had 4 people to start with. We call ourselves the Friday Feud. I don't know what the deal is. Last week, we only had 4 people to begin with, too. We ended up with 6. We had a couple of people came in late. One of them goes either to 8 o'clock or the 9:15, depending on how he's doing with his child care with his son. So he came in a little late. The other guy who came in late was supposed to have had back surgery, and they got rescheduled. So he's there, but he's in pretty bad shape. He mentioned he had fallen 4 times that morning. He really needs surgery, and he needs more help. He's pretty far along. So after we had 413, came home, and I spent a good deal of time that day getting documents ready to be shredded. The computer club here sponsored a shred day on Saturday, where they had 2 trucks with shredding on site, and for old documents that you didn't want to just throw in the trash or put in recycle. For me, that was a bunch of old tax returns, other things that had my name, or our names, and social security numbers or bank account numbers, that sort of thing on them. We've done these shred times before, got rid of all the old printed checks from way back when we used to have to write our social security number on our checks to cash them at the exchange or whatever. How much the times have changed. Don't have to can't write your social security, wouldn't want to write your social security number on anything now with identity theft. But those were days before the computer business and before all identity theft stuff was going on. So that was Saturday, the 18th. Got up in the morning, had a leisurely breakfast, and the shred day was scheduled for 9 to 12, and they had 400 people signed up. You had to be signed up in advance. I figured, as typical around here in Sun City, there'd be a mass line at 9 o'clock, so I'd just wait. Since it was going to run for 3 hours, I wouldn't go till 10. So I had everything packed up in the car and went at 10 o'clock with my 1 box full of stuff to be shredded, expecting to wait in line and play creep creep. Well, we had a little interruption there. At 8 o'clock came around, my alarm went off off to remind me to take my first dose of carbidopa-levodopa medication for my Parkinson's, and so that brought everything to a halt. So I got that done. My wife, her alarm went off, woke her up, so here we are 15 minutes later, I'm back. But I do have a cup of coffee, which makes it better for my voice. Nice warm. So I'm not exactly sure where I was. I think I was down to Saturday at the shred event for Computer Club, yeah. So anyway, I went at 10 o'clock expecting to have to play, stop and go for a while, long line. I drove right up. There wasn't anybody in line. Didn't take me 5 minutes to go through, and they had it set up really well with 2 trucks doing shredding. You didn't get out of your car. You pulled up, opened the back end. I've got an SUV and I got a control inside. I just pushed the button and the back end opens up. The guy took out the box, dumped it, put the box back in, closed the thing, and I drove away. So it was no big deal. They had police there to direct traffic. Well, there wasn't any traffic for them to direct, so the 2 policemen were sitting in their cars. It was cold. It was 42 degrees. They were sitting in their cars with the lights on. They had the left turn lane blocked, so you had to pull out and turn right, go down and make a U-turn to go back where you were coming from. I thought it was going to be a big deal. So that was what took care of most of the morning. Came home, showered, got dressed, and went to Mass at 5 o'clock. And then from there, we went to the grocery store. Actually, went to 2 grocery stores because I couldn't get it all at one. We have H-E-B and Randall's, and the H-E-B tends to have a lot of H-E-B products and some things that you specifically want in a certain brand or something they won't have. So we had 4 or 5 things. I went to Randall's and got home and unloaded all that stuff and had dinner and watched some stuff on Apple TV. There was nothing on regular TV channels. So that took care of Saturday. Here we are Sunday morning, early, struggling with my voice a little bit and interruptions in the video. Have a cup of coffee. It feels like Rick Conti's Coffee with Conti about Corvettes on Sunday morning without a Corvette, but I have had 4 of them. So now in terms of some kind of things I talked about, housekeeping. I don't have some of the difficulties a lot of people do with Parkinson's yet. That's not to say I won't get them. No tremors. The biggest thing I notice day to day, and that you would notice if you saw me, is I walk slow. But other than that, not really anything. I don't have any problem driving. The things you would notice that I noticed beforehand, before I knew what it was my handwriting went to pot. My handwriting got illegible. Would get real small. Just couldn't write clearly. That's Parkinson's. Frankly, I do good to sign my name now. And that is with some hand exercises beforehand to be sure I got flexibility in my fingers. The tendency is you start off okay, size-wise, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where it's illegible. It's just a line with little squiggles in it until you stop and start again. So that had happened. I got to the point where I could no longer write thank you notes by hand, which were kind of old school. My wife and I believe in, if you need to thank somebody, you take the time to write a handwritten thank you note, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and mail it to them. That became impossible. She had to write the notes, or I would type something up with an explanation of why I typed it and sign it. The other thing I noted was typing. I've never been a great typist. I did learn to type, but when we got into computers, I didn't learn it in college because I wasn't in business. In business school, you had to take typing, but I wasn't in business school, so I didn't take typing in college. But when we got into personal computers in the early 80s, my oldest daughter and I went to junior college there in Northern Virginia, took a typing class, so I do know how to do touch typing. What I notice is I screw up the order of letters on simple words, and I'm slow. I'm just like slow walking, I'm slow typing. Probably the predominant thing is doing capital letters. I tend to push down the shift key and let go of the shift key before I get the letter key typed. So what I end up with is I intend to type a capital letter and I get a lowercase letter, and I have to go back and replace the lowercase with a very intentional uppercase letter, that sort of thing. Before my diagnosis, I noticed when I was walking, I didn't really think much about it, but I noticed when I was walking that and I did a lot of walking, that my right arm didn't swing when I was walking. You know how you walk along and your arm swing? Well, my right arm didn't swing, it just hung there. I had to specifically swing it to make it walk and be normal. That's Parkinson's. I use my Apple Watch and track my walking, my exercise, and I noticed that my time to do a mile got slower and slower. Some days it would be much better. So that's the variability of things. Some days I walked without any real problem at all. And I noticed getting up and down, sitting in a chair was more difficult. And I just attribute that to Parkinson's. I don't know why. I've got plenty of leg strength. It's just the movement. It's like the initiating movement. I don't know, one of the problems people can have in Parkinson's is called freezing, where you can't make that step without doing something. I know in an exercise class I went to, they said, say something. One of our Georgetown area Parkinson support group meetings, a lady had a cane with a little laser thing on it that would project a line on the floor. That was all it would take for somebody to see, to be able to move if they were freezing, and they could have this attached to their cane. I don't have that sort of thing. I occasionally will have a momentary hesitation about moving, but not normally. Normally I don't have any problem with movement. So those are some of the things. Other things that I didn't realize were related to Parkinson. It slows down movement. It's a movement disorder. Well, it's all movement, including your digestive system. You really have to try and work at keeping your digestive system moving, or you end up with constipation. That's just kind of a prevalent problem, and I do have that. In addition to walking and those kinds of things. But other than that, I'm not really suffering anything. And I'm working hard at the exercise part to slow down the progression of Parkinson's. That's the key. So our 413 boxing business, we do boxing and some down on the floor agility, exercise, yoga, balance, those kinds of things. It's all about trying to keep us challenged. The challenge is mentally too when we're boxing, about which kind of punch we're going to throw and with which hand and what order. So that's just not left, right. It's maybe two lefts and a right and a duck and a right and a left, that kind of thing. They do it also in other ways with other movements. So it's good, and I really look forward to the exercises. So think that's kind of the housekeeping. I covered most of the symptoms. Handwriting, walking, speech, digestion, fatigue. Sometimes I'm fatigued in the afternoon. It's kind of strange. I notice that, the days when I have heavy exercise, after my 1 o'clock dose of carbidopa, levodopa, I take it at 8, 1, and 6. And I go from 6 at night around to 8 in the morning without any. Yet when I get up, like this morning, I was up at 7 o'clock. I don't notice any real difference at 7 o'clock from 7 to 8 before I take a dose of carbidopa than I did before. So it's kind of not, I don't have ups and downs, which some people do. So anyway, that's just my story so far. Story's Parkinson's story. Up to February the 19th in the morning. I think that's enough for now. So until next time.